Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk about the common problems on the BMW E70 generation X5. Now, as you can see right here, I have a 2008 BMW X5 30D, and when you ask yourself what are the common problems on these cars, you should probably be asking what is not a common problem on this car, because there is a lot. Now, they can be reliable cars, but they definitely require a lot of maintenance. So we're going to be going into everything that could potentially crop up and things that you should look at swapping out if you want your BMW X5 to be reliable. Let's get into it. Now then, first things first, let's talk about the most important thing, the engine. So if you are after a diesel, or if you own a diesel, you're going to have two engine choices. It's either going to be the M57, which is this engine right here, or it's going to be the later N57. If you get the N57, that's going to come with some timing chain issues, but it does come with a lot of better revisions when it comes to other common problem areas. So on the M57, which is what this is, they like to eat swirl flaps for breakfast. So you either have two options. You can just completely remove the swirl flaps and install blanking plates, or you can decide to swap out the intake manifold. I actually decided to do that on this engine, just swapped it out for a brand new genuine intake manifold. And if you are taking care of the swirl flaps, if you are swapping your intake manifold, you'll more than likely want to remove or at least blank off the EGR valve as well. The EGR valve is responsible for reintroducing dirty exhaust gases back into the intake. The intake then gets clogged up, full of carbon, and that is what causes these swirl flaps to fail. So the EGR valve, the EGR cooler, they are common problem areas. If you want to take care of them, just get yourself a whole delete kit and no more problems with the EGR then. Another common problem when it comes to the diesels is the DPF blocking up. Now, they will only typically block up if you are doing short journeys, but they can also block up if you have a fault code relating to anything that the DPF requires to regenerate. So if you have a faulty glow plug, if your thermostat is stuck open and you're not getting up to temperature, your coolant temperature is not getting over 75 degrees, your DPF will not want to regenerate. And what happens if your DPF does not regenerate? It gets blocked up over time. Once it is completely blocked, that can end up taking out your turbo, which is a big expense. It's a lot of labor involved. It's not the easiest turbo to swap out on this engine. I've personally done one, and yeah, it wasn't fun. I had to take off the rocker cover, and yeah, a massive job it was. Now on the later N57, the turbo is a lot easier. You can remove the turbo without having to take off the rocker cover or anything, and yeah, in my opinion, that's one of the better designs on the later N57. Like I said, with the N57, you're going to have some timing chain issues. The timing chain is at the back on this M57, it's at the front, and these really do not suffer with timing chain problems at all. Major point though, regardless of which engine you have, diesel, petrol, M57, N57, change your oil every 5,000 miles. That's the best piece of advice I can give. Don't go with BMW's 15 or 18,000 mile intervals. Swap out your oil every 5,000 miles and you'll be pretty much golden. Now let me talk about if you have a petrol. I believe there was just two choices, possibly three. If you have the N52/N53 engine, it's a very reliable engine. That's the 3-litre straight 6 engine. But if you have the V8 N62 engine, that comes with a whole host of problems, and in my opinion, I would stay away from that V8 engine. Another common problem then that seems to affect all of these E70 BMW X5s is rust. Now when I'm talking about rust, I'm not talking about on the bodywork as a whole. Rust is not really an issue. For starters, the entire front end is pretty much plastic. The bonnet, that's either aluminium or steel. Obviously if you get stone chips you may introduce some rust, but as a whole, you know, the wheel arches, it's not like on the previous E53 or say an E46 or something of the same generation where it would struggle with rust problems, but I'm talking about the subframe. So the front subframe, that is steel. It's not like say a 5 series or a 7 series where they have aluminium front subframes. You know, this one is steel, and with road salt and road grime, they do like to rot away. So that is something that you do want to check up on and you know, keep an eye on as well. The next common problem on the front end would be the front diff. Now obviously I'm not going to be able to show you, but it is right on the back of the engine block, you know, just to the side of the sump. And the main problem with the diffs, now you could say it's also the main problem with the rear diff and the central transfer case as well. The main problem why they fail is a lack of oil changes. If you have a leak and that fluid goes out, they basically run dry, and that's when they grenade themselves. So you do need to swap out the oil on the front diff, the rear diff and the transfer case, and that goes for the transmission as well. BMW say they are lifetime filled transmissions, but in my opinion, swap the fluid out every 50 to 60,000 miles and you'd be golden. Your transmission should last forever. Another common problem then, quite a small one, but it is to do with the door handles. Now, the door handles on the E70 are not as bad of a problem as they were on the previous E53, but these can snap off. Now typically it will happen when the ambient temperature is very, very cold out, say it's below minus. You'll go to grab your door after unlocking it, of course, you'll pull it and you'll just yank the thing off. So if you notice that it's cold out and you go to pull your handle and the door doesn't want to open, don't just keep yanking on the thing, you will just snap it off. Best thing to do is just pour some, you know, it can just be cold or lukewarm water, obviously just anything that's above freezing pretty much. Just pour it all over the door, make sure it goes on the door handle, you know, it can even go down, you know, down the window sill as well. And you know, that usually does free the door handle up. Yeah, I see people using a hairdryer and things like that, just standing there for like 10 or 15 minutes using a hairdryer. No need to do that, just pour some lukewarm water over here and you should be good. You should be able to open your door then. Now then, I did mention about rust not really being an issue on the bodywork. That was kind of a lie. There is one area that does suffer from rust, and that is the tailgate. Now I do apologize, this tailgate is absolutely filthy. It's winter, there's not a lot we can do, you know, the car gets like this after just a couple of days of use. But yeah, you will notice the rust on the tailgate right underneath the badge here, right where the number plate lights are. And this one does have quite a bit of bubbling up. So this will either need to be repaired or the entire tailgate will just begin to rot. So yeah, it's a very annoying issue. I'm not too sure why it happens. I'm guessing water must get down into the wiper mechanism, or it goes in through a seal and obviously just sits inside of the tailgate and then rots it from the inside out. Another common problem then is on the interior, and it is to do with these passenger grab handles on the door cards. So the outside of it is leather, but on the inside it has this nasty, very nasty rubberized coating, which after a couple of years starts to peel off, and the door grab handle itself will feel very, very sticky. Yeah, not pleasant at all for your passengers. But again, this is something that can be easily replaced. It's just held in by a couple of bolts. You have to take the door card off to access it, of course, but yeah, something that you can just replace. Another common problem on these cars then is something that is a very expensive fix, and that is to do with the air suspension. So of course these have coil springs on the front, as you can see, but then on the rear they come as standard with airbags, which you're probably not going to be able to see, but essentially the airbags themselves, they can puncture, or there is a compressor underneath the car that can go bad, and it can cause all types of self-leveling issues, error codes, the whole lot. It's a very, very complex and expensive system to work on, and if you have to swap out both of the airbags, you're talking a good few £100. It's not just a case of swapping out a couple of springs. So yeah, if your car has covered 100,000 miles or so, you probably need to swap out both of the rear airbags. Another common problem then, which is something that has actually affected this car, is the SOS warning light. So I believe it is the SOS, you can see the SOS button there. The module for this goes bad. Now, it's not a major issue, it's more of an annoyance. I doubt anybody even uses this SOS button. It is a bit of an out-of-date thing now, but this is something that can be coded out. I am going to get it coded out in this car. You're far better off doing that rather than replacing the faulty module. But yeah, it's just a very, very small and minor issue. Another common problem that can occur with these cars, and it's not specific to the X5, but it is going to be if you have the CCC iDrive, which is what this one is. This debuted in 2003 and then ran up to 2009 before it was replaced by the CIC iDrive. Now, the CCC iDrive, which has the DVD for the navigation, the CCC unit itself, that can go bad. If it does, you'll probably not have any power to the screen here, or it'll just keep turning itself on and off. That's usually when the unit goes bad. In my opinion, upgrade it to CIC if you can. It's very, very affordable now, and it's a much better and up-to-date system. Another common problem then on these cars is to do with the sunroof. Now, as you can see, this car does not have a sunroof. That's because the first owner of this car was smart, and they knew that sunroofs on the BMW E70 X5 can cause problems. Now then, what can happen? So the sunroof itself is actually connected to two arms. Now, these arms themselves are known to break, and that obviously means that you have to replace them. You have to repair your sunroof, or you have to replace the whole entire unit. If it was me, I would stay away from a sunroof. It only adds even more weight to the car, and it's just an extra thing that can not only leak from the seal around it, but again, it's something that can completely fail. And just a few more small minor issues then. First one being with the washer jets. So you'll have 2 or 3 sets of washer jets. Of course, the ones for the front windscreen, ones for the rear windscreen, and then if you have them, which this car does not, but you may have them for the headlight washers. So basically what happens is you will try to use the headlight washers or the windscreen washers, and you'll get no fluid out whatsoever. So essentially the headlight washer or the windscreen washer bottle with the fluid in sits behind the front wing here. It's a bit of a pain to get to, but essentially you have a filter for each individual pump. So again, if you have 3 sets of washer systems, then you'll have 3 pumps. If you only have 2, you'll just have the 2 pumps. But yeah, there is a small filter on each pump that gets blocked up from old washer fluid just sitting in there, and it just allows no fresh fluid through. So if you want to rectify this fault, you can either strip down pretty much the front end and get that washer bottle removed and clean those filters out, and then you should have fresh fluid going through, or you can watch a video of mine where I did a much easier way. Essentially just removed one of the lines off of the washer jets, blew compressed air through, which then blew all of the junk off of the filter, and then washed it back out of the top of the washer bottle. Now that is a very annoying and potentially dangerous problem, because if you don't have access to washer fluid, how the hell are you going to clean your windscreen? Now then, like I said, just a couple more minor problems, a couple of trim pieces. This trim piece right here, this is for the washer jet if you have them. Like I said, this car does not, but this is a cover that can fall off, again with this one right here. Typically what happens with these trim pieces is they actually fall inward, so if you do notice that you have one of these missing, do check inside on your under tray to make sure it hasn't fallen in there. So then, that is going to conclude some of the common problems that you may expect to find on a BMW E70 X5. If you want to own one of these cars, make sure you have deep pockets. It's not a car that you can run on a budget. It does require a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of constant maintenance, because at the end of the day, it's an all-wheel drive car. You have front drive shafts, you have a front diff, you have a transfer case, a lot of different systems that you don't have on a regular rear-wheel drive BMW. So just bear that in mind, and yeah, really don't try and skimp out on things, because you will end up doing most of the jobs twice, which is the worst case scenario, of course. But yeah, hopefully this video has been helpful anyway. Hopefully you've all enjoyed it. Please give this one a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you have not already done so, and I will see you all in that next one. Peace.